is there a maximum age really? Age requirement?
Yes, that's based on the insurance, and but you're talking usually like, was it?
18?
Well, to implement it depends. Some of them they won't. Yeah, 75 is usually the max, but some of them at 65, that's usually about the last you can get in.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, there is that side. All right. So how do you maximize this tool? Okay. Now this is the part that I'm going to run through a little bit. So this is essentially the minimum amount you put in. This is your target. Okay, you know when you guys run the illustration, it tells you a target. That's essentially what you're looking at. Okay. Inside the target is your cost of the insurance. Okay. So it's a cost of insurance. The target is the cost of insurance plus a little more, right? That's why even on target you do accumulate cash value. If you just paid the cost of insurance, how much cash value would it accumulate? Zero, right? You got to have a little bit of extra. So that's what the target is, right? So if you ever wonder what that target was on there. And different companies, how they establish the target is different. That's why I can't go into this, because each company is a little bit different. Typically speaking, PacLife's targets are higher than WRL, except that there's a lot more flexibility on the PacLife.
Target the premium, right? Minimum premium.
I would say the minimum suggested premium, let's put it that way.
Okay.
You can technically go down to the cost of insurance, but then why would you?
Right.
But this is the minimum suggested. You're not going to accumulate in any but company out there. You're not going to accumulate a whole lot of money just doing target, right? You're not going to get your full retirement doing, just the target, right? Because it's a little bit above, right? But that's what that target is. It's the minimum suggested, so that you pay your cost and you have some accumulation. This also protects. Remember down the road how the cost of insurance gets higher? You're accumulating enough in here to offset that, so they don't have to go, okay, instead of paying this much, now you have to pay this much. It's kind of like, it adds to that what they call the no lapse guarantee. Most of these plans have what's called a no lapse guarantee built into it. If you pay a certain amount, then as long as you keep paying that, if it runs out of cash, you won't run out, right?
So cost of insurance remains fixed over the life?
No, actually, that's where it kind of ranges,
Okay.
But that's the target is going to cover that, so you don't have to worry about that down the road when it does get bigger.
We'll show you the illustration later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So later on in the age, the target is actually smaller than COI as you age.
Yeah, technically speaking, yeah, actually it is. Okay, so that's your interest, and then you can go all the way out to here, which is called the guideline annual, right? Again, if you were here last week, you'd understand that in a little more detail, but this is the maximum you can contribute, okay? Basically, for those who weren't here last week, this is established in relationship to this, or I should say your contribution, okay? The cost of the insurance, your contribution, and the death benefit, which is done with a bunch of actuarial tables, okay? That most of us, would take us forever to learn how to even understand, right? So this is based upon this. So if you raise this bucket, then this one gets out further too, okay? If you contribute outside of this line, this is the IRS line. This is not the company line. The company puts it there to protect you from the IRS. Because if you go beyond these borders, the IRS says it's no longer an insurance policy, insurance contract. It's what's called a modified endowment contract. So the tax advantages change. Okay, modified endowment contract, not a bad thing. You can set these up to be an MEC, and it has its place. Okay, but if you want these specific tax advantages, then you can't go past this right here. So if this was a certain amount, like let's say this was because it's guideline annual, right? So let's say this was 10,000, okay? They say no more than 10,000 you can put into this year, but the client wants to say 15,000. So what do? You create a bigger contract. If you increase this size, your death benefit type of thing, then this box gets bigger. Make sense? Okay.
So you can make it bigger as long as you're increasing the COI, right?
Well, not exactly COI exactly, but yeah, I mean the COI will go because you have a bigger contract, right? So if $250,000 of death benefit doesn't create a box big enough for me, then maybe I need a $500,000 death benefit, which $500,000 will cost more than $250,000, right? So it's not like I'm going to raise your cost, but it is associated.
What I meant was still protects you under the tax law.
Yeah, your cost will increase for a bigger box because the because you're buying more insurance.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay, so that's basically what it looks like. Okay, you put in anything outside of this inside box is all your interest. Okay.
And remember, the box is cumulative, okay? So if you don't use the full box, you only use half the box this year.
Yeah.
Next
Let me
year
draw that
you
out.
get 1.5 box
Yeah.
because you don't use the
What
half
that means,
box
what
this
he's
year.
saying is that
You
to
can
put
put
some numbers. Let's say the outside edge of the box is 10,000. Okay. But you're like, well, I'm not going to put it. Now, if somebody can't put in here, that doesn't mean you don't set this up for them, right? If this overall box fits them, that's good. That just means they have up to this amount to put in. So let's say it's that, but let's say I'm putting in $5,000 a year, right? So after my first year, I didn't use $5,000, did I? Right? I only put in 5. In a Roth IRA, does that mean next year I can put in $10,000? Because
Okay.
can you do that in a Roth IRA?
No.
No, because the max is $5,000 period. But this $5,000 carries over.
So the 15,000 next year, you're saying, okay.
Yeah. So let's say for 4 years I put in $5,000. How much on the 6th year could I contribute?
Yep. What about the
Right?
carryovers?
5 times 4 is 20 plus that year's 10,000. So essentially I could put in 30 grand that
Okay,
year.
I got you.
Now, where that's great is because later on you can if you do start making more money, yada yada yada. You us here think about that, right? We have plans to make a lot more money, right? You can create, even though you're putting in a little bit, you can create this really large bucket for yourself. Okay. Another place where that's applicable. Let's say somebody says, "Hey, I'm just starting a business. I don't have a whole lot of money put aside." But what's the plan of the business is I'm going to grow this business for 20, 30 years and then I'm going to sell it off. Okay? And I'm going to use that to retire on. Great. Now, there's a whole lot of reasons why that may or may not work, but that's not you're not a business advisor, okay? So what you can do is, okay, well, what are you going to do with that money? Let's say he plans on selling the business for his projections, or let's say $2 million, okay? What does he do with that $2 million now that he sold the business off? Where's he going to put it?
In the bank.
Right, in the bank, or he can invest it or something, but how's he going to be taxed on that money?
Oh.
On gains, let's say on gains, because obviously if he sold the business, he already pays whatever taxes he would have owed on the sale of the business. But every time he grows on that money, he's going to be paying some taxes. But if you took 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, right? Let's say he just put in 5,000 a year, that his other 5,000 accumulates over 20, 30 years, then you can't do it in that size. I've tried, you can't put in the 2 million at one time, but over about, let's say 3 to 5 years, he could be putting in that $2 million into this. So then at that point, any money he gains on that, he doesn't pay any tax on. And he can start taking withdrawals from the 2 million if he wants, or loan it out, or whatever the strategy is, and he could then have his retirement tax free.
In fact, as you get older, the limit goes up to.
Yeah. Okay? So some advantages there. All right? So this does essentially get bigger because if you don't use it all, they tack it on to next year. All right? Okay. I got to move it because that's not really part of it. All right? So that's basically what you're looking at with this type of product. You put in money, a little bit here to pay for a large asset, right? Because you already saw what you're buying, you know, and the rest of it is going to accumulate. This picture does not look the same if you drew this off for a whole life product, really, you know, especially down the road. Okay. Minimal target, okay. Well, hold on, I'm just going to pull this all the way out to the end here, okay. So, all of this right here is gaining whatever that product is set up, okay. So obviously the more you put in early on, the compounding effect in here, and the fact that you never lose, and you can still get up to a very, very nice return on that, can set you up for something really great down the road, right? Obviously in the past class we've talked about that, right? Why risk is a big deal, and the fact that this avoids risk is a phenomenal advantage to trading off some topside gain, right?
Is there a product without this insurance portion guarantees that one?
Nope.
Point?
Not that I know of, right?
Okay.
It gives you this type of guarantees.
Without
It's not an insurance.
Uh,
Guarantees no loss, but can get you up to 13.25? No.
Yeah, do it.
Yes, CD.
well, you cannot
No,
get
no, no, no.
At the 13.
Oh, nothing. Okay.
CD will do this side, but it won't do this side.
You want guarantee, right?
A CD won't guarantee 1%. A CD will guarantee 0%.
Well, I mean, it'll guarantee the downside part, yeah. But you're not going to get good upside potential on a CD.
Okay.
You have some gain, but it's a fixed gain.
No, but annuity. How about?
That's insurance.
No, Prakash, if you want to know more the technicality behind it, come for the IUL detail plus. And
And I mean, obviously, because to do every little detail is no way in 1 week we could get through. But I'm giving you the high level view. Okay. All right, because I got a couple cool things here, and so I want to move on. Okay.
yes, but certain age.
All right. So I talked right. So you see the downside protection, right? The upside potential. No A's limit. No. But what's the fifth one? Anybody want to take a gander at that? No.
Say it again.
What's the fifth one? Remember I told you there's 5.
Grandfather.
No, that was on the last one. This is on the cash value. What's the living benefits on the cash value?
Grandmother.
Okay.
Tax free. Oh, annual reset.
Annual reset. Let's talk about that.
Where's annual reset?
I'm gonna show you.
Oh, it's locked. High water mark.
Oh,
So let's say here, okay, basically how cash accumulation works on this thing. Okay? How cash accumulation works is the money you put in goes into let's imagine a large filing cabinet. Okay? So they create this folder. Let me draw more like a folder then, I guess. So we have this folder, this file that you put your money into. So let's say you're $100, right? It goes into this file, and they mark it. 2 things they take down: the date you put it in. So let's say like January 2013, and then they mark it with whatever index is using to credit. Okay? What's the most common index used by all companies?
S&P.
S&P 500. You guys know S&P, remember from the class, right? So what they do is they say S&P. So like, what's the S&P at last time you guys looked? What was it at?
Today.
Recently. Yeah, today or
Well,
yesterday. 1800?
Was it hit 2000?
oh, S&P.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say, okay? So they put it in there, and then they put it in the filing cabinet and close the door. They don't touch it for 1 year. Okay? 1 year from now, so and in January of 2014 of this year, okay, you would have, see, I obviously haven't shifted my year yet, but I meant to do this year. They're going to pull it out, and they're going to go, well, what's the S&P at? Okay, so let's say it was at 2000, okay, at that date, just say. So then they'll go, okay, what's the change in the index? What would that be? That's, I mean, a little less than 10%.
11%.
Huh?
Well, it's about
1800, 2000. No, that's actually not much.
yeah. It's about
Okay.
11%.
Well, so okay. Well, let's just say whatever it was 10%. Okay, the math is, all right. So it said, hey, it did 10% return. Okay, it's a 10% change between this January and this January. It was at a 10% difference. Okay, so they're going to credit 10% to that $100. So now you have $110 in that folder. They put that folder back in the file, and they don't pull it out again until the next year, 2015. They do the same thing. And they do that with each time you make a contribution. So if you make one in January, you get a file for January. If you make a contribution in February, you get a file for February. All right, so if you make monthly contributions, which is the most advisable strategy, I think, then you get 12 folders. But let's say the S&P went down. Well, actually, okay, I think it has it on here, but let's say the S&P went down for February. Would that affect this folder? No. They don't care. This money, all you're caring about is what's happening down here. So even if the S&P went down to 1500, okay, who cares? They mark this folder 1500. So if this one's up to 2, let's say it went up to 22 in February, woo, you're actually excited that you had that drop because this is low from 15 to 2, so you get a bigger return. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay? All right, now I have a graph that shows you basically how it works, but I want to show you what we mean. Okay?
It's an annual return, right? The crediting every year. It's just like any CD would be every year, right?
Well, not exactly. I mean, yes and no. Okay, what I mean by is each folder. So your January folder had 10%, but your February folder may have had, let's say this was a 15% return, but on our illustration you get 13.25 is the cap. So instead of 15, you got 13.25 on that folder, right? So each month, and then maybe the next month, maybe it was a negative. So you got 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, on that folder.
Okay, so knowing this, you can decide when to invest. when to put money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Possibly
no,
not
actually, yes,
advisable.
not exactly in this product, you don't have to worry about it.
Because
Okay, and if the next illustration doesn't quite explain it, then we can
Okay.
kind of take it later to show you the detail on that.
Okay.
That's the great thing about this. So here's an illustration. Let's say the market's at 1,000. We say the market because most will use the S&P, but some will use other ones plus the S&P, you know, and things like that. That's not important. So let's say the market's at 1,000, and this is in November, right? So then they look at the next, okay, and it went down to 17. 70, sorry, 17. Okay? That following year. It's a negative 30%, right? How much do you get?
1%.
1%. Remember, because the floor is 1%. All right? So then the following, let's say it went down again. What do you get?
1%.
That's a 21.5% loss, right? But you still get 1%. So from, in those 2 years, how much of a loss would you have taken if you didn't have the floor? That's huge.
45%.
Okay? Yeah, that's massive stuff, right? But then it goes back up, 10%. So you get 10.9%, right? Now, if you look at how risk works, you know, and how much when you lose, you have to gain to break even again, right? You always have to gain more than you break even. This guy shouldn't be excited at a 10% return, should he?
Sure.
Because he's actually still way down,
Still negative.
right? Because at 40% loss, at 40, you have to gain 67 to break even again, right? So 10%, barely getting started, right? But you're ahead, aren't you, if you're in this type of product? Make sense? You guys
Yes.
follow me? Okay, so it goes back up again, 16.4, right? He's still not broke even yet. But you get, see, in the negative years, you got 1% guarantee. And if the floor is 0, then this would be 0, 0.
Should be 15 though, right?
Okay?
Year.
Okay, you got 16.4, here you only get 13.25 because that's the cap, even though it was at that. So as long as it's between 1 and 13.25, you get what it does. If it's less than 1, you get 1. If it's more than the 13.25, you get the 13.25, right? Okay? Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to talk about the interest crediting strategy anymore. I was thinking about taking, but I know Hadi, some stuff he may talk about might do that. So I'm going to do a quick thing because I want to bring something to light to you. This is not to bring the information, okay? Company comparison. Okay, this is just IUL. This is something Kevin Lemon did, you know, and this is a couple of years ago. So things change between now and then. But this is why you can't just go, I'm just going to use this company, and that's it. Okay? Here's why. And he compared 4 companies, right? Single life, yada, yada, yada. Here's some things you have to consider. Oops. Okay? The compounding speed. Annually, 2 years, 5 years. Right? You know, Pac Life and ING, they have a 5-year. Okay? The cap is higher, but you know, so you need to look at that. How often does it compound? So if you're used to, you learn WRL's product, the FFIUL, and then you go sell Pac Life and you didn't set it up right, you may put them in a 5-year bucket. You thought it was annually. Pay attention, all right? And I know that's common sense, but we need to look at that. What indexes do they use? Is it S&P only? Or because see, so we kind of get raised on WRL, right? Because well, one, the FFIU is a wonderful product, right? But you know, not all of them use global indexes, right? The FFIUL uses the S&P 500, the Euro Stoxx 50, and the Hang Seng as a part of your crediting method, right? Some of them will only use the S&P. Okay, some of them will have, you know, they'll have multiple strategies, but it's S&P and something else, right?
Backlife's global is not
the same.
Euro and Hang Seng. I think
Yeah.
that's what MCSI or something.
Yeah. So you need to, you know, make sure you know what it is, what they're using, right? Minimum, maximum interest credited. Okay. So you know, where's that range, right? Is it a 0%? Is it a 1%? You know, the participation ratio. This is something people don't think about because most of the big companies we use, they have 100% participation. What that means is when they credit interest, because your money's not physically directly invested, right? What they're doing is they're using the index to know how much interest to credit to it, right? That's why when the S&P went negative, you can still get 1. Why? Because your money wasn't actually in the S&P, right? It wasn't in an S&P mirrored fund, right? It was just they're using that as a way to establish how much interest to give you, okay? Now, if you want to know how they actually grow their money, that's a separate conversation, right? How they do that. But how much of your money is participating in all of that will depend. Most of them are at 100%. The ones like but Pac Life, they actually have some that go up, don't they?
What is that participant ratio?
Like, okay, like,
If the market goes 10%, if your participation ratio is 50,
Okay, gotcha.
okay, so if you have $5,000 gets credited for whatever the interest was. But if it was just say a 50% participation, then only 2,500 of your money participates on whatever growth.
Okay.
There are some that are less. Who's less? Who has one below 100? ING does. Okay?
ING.
Got to know that. Are there some that are higher? Pac Life has a
Pac
couple.
Life, yeah.
Right?
100% Pac Life?
Yeah.
Well,
Pac Life has
Pac Par.
150? Yeah. One of their
150.
strategies, they have 150, up to.
Wow.
Okay? But all these things are in relationship to each other. Premium expense charge. Okay? Those can be a little different. Okay? From company to company.
What is premium expense charge?
Well, we'll talk about that later. I really don't have time to go into all of that right now. I'm just showing you what we need to pay attention to, okay? And we actually talked about that one, I know, at least last week. The net loan. Remember I told you about that? After the credit, what is that? See, if you're doing this or this, it's not too bad. But if your net is still this, then that could add up over time if you weren't paying back that loan. That could eat away at your cash value real quick, potentially. And the product won't work very well, right? Now, the companies we use, you're not going to see that. Most of the ones the ones we use more commonly, I'll say, because there may be some of them, right? Okay, let me show you something. See, here's what Kevin Lim did. He put together this from those companies, all those categories, and compared them, right? Okay, I'm not doing this much confusing stuff, right? But let me just pull this up,
Oh.
right? So he looked at what they had, like see here what indexes the different companies are using, how they compound it, the crediting method, all of that stuff, okay? To make a comparison. Now, like I said, this is old, right? Some of this information could be changed, so you can't rely on this info. That's why I'm not going over it, okay? But he looked at actually looking at doing a comparison. He looked at what these different indexes, how those indexes perform, and then that dictates how much interest you credit, okay? That's a lot of stuff to consider, right? So can you just really assume that one company is, they're all the same?
Nope.
Well, Pac Life, yeah, it's all the same. No, not necessarily. Okay? Let me just skip through a lot of this. Whoopsie. So at that time, in the way he looked at it all, he did like a golf score you will. On interest, how do they perform? WRL hit the top. Their GIUL at the time. These things have changed since then, so a new analysis might show a little bit different, but WRL's GIUL outperformed. Okay? And it's in order. Pac Life's IUL, the 5-year, according to what he looked at, was at the backside. I'm not saying it's bad. It just, when you look at the cost, who had the lowest cost overall? Nationwide did. WRL came in second. Okay? Something to consider. But all of it together, WRL came out on top.
Woo.
All right? Not to say that I mean,
and this is
we use it a little more often, But now, one thing I will say is he's basing that on what? Again, on single life only. So if you have something like this may be a different mix. But also, different companies depending on, that's the same person through all companies, right? So that person, because of them and their age and their health, WRL came out on top. But it is possible that if you had someone older with some health issues or whatnot, one of these other ones may have come out better because of various cost structure, right? So that's why it's important to not just choose one and run with it, okay? Well, when you're brand new, you don't have to do all that analysis. You talk with us. I mean, there's rule of thumb that we kind of go by, but then you can run a comparison with a couple different companies, see which ones come out right, okay?
That's for young 35-year-olds kind of thing.
I forget what he did on that one, but yeah, probably somewhere around there, okay? So how do you like being properly protected, right? Making sure your family, in the worst case scenario, is taken care of. You pay way less taxes. You have a much higher interest rate, right? Okay? And is this an awesome product for yourself, for your family? Because this is the thing, though. If you look at it and go, I don't really like this. I don't think this works. You're not going to sell a single one of these. If you don't believe in it, I can sell Mercedes all day even though I don't drive one because, hey, if I'm a good salesman. In this, a good salesman can still do it, but it's going to be tough, and especially in our company, right? So, what about people you know? Okay, if you look at this and you like these and you can answer yes to these things, then I say, what's the holdup for you guys? You know, have you guys set up your own strategy? And if you have, then you can believe in it, then you can get out there and tell other people about this kind of stuff, okay? All right? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very quick look through at using the illustration, okay, to talk through, all right, because I want to give Hadi some time, okay? But any questions so far on what I went over before I jump into that next part?
What's the holdup?
That's what I'm saying, guys. What's your holdup? You know, I'm telling you this. I'm honestly, people that don't. If you're like, man, I don't really know how. You know, get to know it.
So
Get
what is the
comfortable.
penetration of this product?
I'm sorry.
What is the penetration rate for this product? I mean,
Oh my God.
very
Yeah.
small.
What do you mean?
No, an insurance. If you look at all the insurance, term
What is
versus all the
Percentage-wise, market share.
percentage-wise, like, you know,
Permanent life insurance is still the largest part of the market on life insurance. I saw a pie chart. I forget who it was with, but the permanent insurance versus term. Majority of the market is still permanent.
among
You know.
these four permanent, which one is the biggest one still?
The biggest one growing is this IUL. Okay, the reason why on a percentage basis of the whole market it may not be that big is because it's the newest one too.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's when I first came in, there was like they said there was like maybe like 3 or 4 companies that even had IUL in the whole industry. Now that's grown since then, but there's still only not IUL, yeah IUL, but then there was only like about 3 companies that had the global index. Now we didn't have time to to go into that yet, but that usually multiple indexes. Out of the ones that did have it, like at one point there's about maybe 12 companies I think that overall had an IUL, but most of them only used one index. You know, but now there are a few more that's growing, right? And so the penetration is growing, okay, phenomenally. You know, there are still people that do like the variable, so it kind of depends on what people like. See, that's the thing is when you look at this, we don't push IUL. We put a client into something that's the best suitable product for them and their needs and their tolerances, right? If someone's so freaked out, that to have any kind of variation, they're like, you cannot convince them that there's no way you're going to get a 0% interest for 10 years straight. There's no way the market's going to go negative, right? I mean, you're not, but they're just so scared, maybe they need the fixed side,
Well, UL is fixed, right?
Well, they have a fixed side, but usually the fixed on the UL is going to be a little lower than a UL. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like a UL, you maybe, it depends on the company too. So there may be a way to get them in an IUL. Say, okay, well, we can put your money into the fixed account. Okay, but they don't get to take advantage of what an IUL has, right? So you put them in a fixed account, whether it's just a UL or an IUL in the fixed account, or even a VUL. They have some areas that are secure too. Okay, but if they're like, nah, I don't like to be capped. I know I could lose money, but I don't like to be capped. I don't want to be capped. Put them in a VUL, right? But if they like the in-between, IUL is perfect.
5-year back life, no cap.
Yeah, you could do that. Yep.
IUL, you have no choice. I mean, it's index, right? You don't have option to invest in like mutual fund.
Yeah, an IUL is an index account. IUL, you actually have 2 options. Okay, you have your fixed account. You could do a fixed account, or you could do an indexed account.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
And a VUL is basically is a variable rate. You can put it into certain things that are secure, to kind of get this, But and so again, it just depends on, a lot of things that the
So
client
IUL
wants.
fixed on a different
So
cap,
for
right?
the VUL, I mean, it's still linked to the market? But
Yes,
it's
you're
like-
VUL, you are investing.
Yeah, you're actually investing in the market.
Yeah, so like if you're invested in these funds, you're actually participating in those funds. In an IUL, it says S&P, they're just using that as what to credit you with.
So you still have the possibility of losing money if you're going to go to the VUL? Because
Yes.
it's still in the market.
Yeah, remember that's what I said. There's no cap, but it's also losses. It participates just like investing.
Okay, but you said that they might have a secure...
Well, yeah, there are things, because you can invest in, so you can invest in some secure things, right? So if you're in mutual fund type stuff, then it's just like mutual funds, up and down. If it's something secure like bonds, right? Do bonds have as much fluctuation,
Nope.
as straight stock or mutual funds? No. right? It just depends on what you're putting your money in on how it will perform. So yeah, you could get some more secured things in here, right? But there's, and I wish we had more time, this is supposed to be a fundamental part right here to show the real power of this, okay? And again, because we have done that in the past couple classes, but you'll get to it to see the real power of this, okay? Again, it just depends on what is, what the client is looking for, their tolerances, okay? And what is suitable for them, okay? All right, let's look real quick. Whenever you're looking through this, okay, and, oh man, it's really hot. When you're looking at the illustration, okay, this is basically what the, when you run an illustration, right, and those of you not licensed probably haven't seen yet, excuse me, but this is basically what the screen you'll see, okay, set up. And so this goes on, so you have a $500,000 death benefit, right, and it covers, the target premium, remember I mentioned all that, right? But when you're looking at this, what are you showing the client? Okay, so here's the first thing you tell them based on this illustration. Okay, and I actually have I have an illustration that I'll kind of show you in there as well, but I want to go over the outline. All right, if you can save $11.22 a day, then a month, you can have you're basically saving $336, right? Sorry, the English, I didn't make these up. And $4,000 a year at 8.87%. At the time that she ran this illustration, that was the max you can illustrate it at. Right? You remember there's a maximum you can illustrate it at. You can't illustrate 13%, they won't let you do it. Okay? And we'll explain later of how they established that. That's basically a look back, the kind of what it averages since the product's been around. Okay? So, if you can do that, okay, then here, your contribution is this amount, okay? So you look down in that column. Well, let me real quick, because some of you may not be familiar with this. Just real quick, because this is more for those of you who are. In this column, this is your age, this is the years, okay? The first year, the second year. This is the premium outlay, the withdrawal, the loans, net premium outlay. Okay, so this is how much you put in each year. This is what it's accumulated up to. Okay, this is the policy value, the surrender value, and the death benefit. Okay, so you notice the death benefit increases every year because it takes that plus the policy value, the 500 initial death benefit plus the policy value. Okay, that's what those are. Okay, so if you put in that $4,000 a month, your total, down here by years, by the time you're 60 years old, you put in, right, your contribution's $109,000. All right, but it became $250,000 at 8.71%. Okay. So the gain is what? You take the 250 minus the 109 is $141,000 tax advantages and $750,000 tax-free death benefit for your family. And now, actually, remember I told you about that health issue, right? You can pull money out of your policy to use it for anything you want, right? Okay? But if you're in retirement, what happens if you start needing long-term care problems? Or you have some type of terminal illness that costs you a lot more than what your retirement nest egg can handle. If you have the right kind of product, because not all companies, and actually there's few companies that do that, you can access some of the death benefit, that $500,000 death benefit to take care of long-term care needs, right? Because man, what's the average cost of a long-term care facility per month?
$1,500 to $2,000.
About
$4,000 to $5,000 per month, yeah. National average. And Texas, from what I understand, is on the high side of that. Talk to Julia, right? She had the same thing with her mom. Very expensive. So if you've built up enough nest egg to survive on, $5,000 to $6,000 a year, and that's to survive until you die. But then all of a sudden you have another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, even for a year or two. What does that do to your nest egg?
Wiped out.
Destroys it. But with this kind of a product, with this company particularly, you can go to that $500,000 death benefit and use some of that to take care of those long-term care needs while your retirement plan is still paying for life. Okay?
Is there a fine print on that, or it's by default available?
No, it depends on, not every company offers it, and it's a rider that's added on. Okay? So, and when you run the illustration, you can run with, especially the FFIUL, particularly, you can run the illustration to show. And there is a maximum amount you can take out on an annual basis. It has to do with Medicare table stuff, you can take out the death benefit. But you can also use it, you can access some of the death benefit for terminal illness, okay? So if you're considered, doctor says, you know what, sorry, you got this problem, you're gonna die in the next year. I don't give you more than a year to live. You can start accessing some of this to pay for stuff. What could that be? What if there's if the doctor said you're probably going to die in a year, I don't give you more than a year, and there's experimental medicine out here. Does Medicare cover? Can it cover you to try that?
No.
Can your health insurance cover you to try that?
No.
No. Would your long-term care cover you to try that?
Yeah.
No. It's for long-term care. But you can pull out some of your death benefits. Say, hey, you know what? I've only got 12 months to live. Let's give this thing a shot.
Yeah.
Pull out $100 grand and go try it. It might save my life.
Yes.
And it doesn't destroy my nest egg.
And for
Okay.
for the bureau, this is a free rider for the bureau to access the death benefit for terminal disease.
Yeah, well, almost all companies, if they have it, it's the terminal illness rider is automatic. It's a part, but not all companies offer the terminal illness rider though. Okay, actually, Transamerica's term, or no, wait, one of their product, I forget, it was the UL at the beginning when we first started. It didn't offer. We were all like, what? Remember, we were on the call and Serena goes, no, we're like, what? Hold on. And not all things are all available in every state, too. The long-term care, you can access death benefit to pay for long-term care needs, just now got approved in California. We've been using it since the product came out. But they just got approved, right? So basically, look, you put in $109,000, you get $250,000 of death benefit, plus cash value, plus $750,000 of death benefit to your family, and you can use that for whatever your family, long-term care needs, terminal illness needs, right? That's a pretty good benefit. Now here's the thing: with $141,000 gain, if this is taxable or tax deferred, then you need to pay how much? 141,000 times 30% tax. How would you like that? $42,000 of taxes you'd have to pay on that gain. That's not cool, right? So you can think, how do taxes play out? See, now, well, I'll show you in a second. Okay? See, now this thing right here, which we'll get for you, is numbered. Okay? Has all these numbers on here. So with that same thing, you put in $100,000, you got about $250,000. But let's say you keep deferring it, right? You stop, by the way, you stop contributing at 60, or let me see.
Yep, at 60.
Yeah, at 60, this turns to 0, your contribution. 60, you shut off premium, right? If this is a whole life product, can you do that?
No.
No. Technically you can, but then you change everything else. It becomes a mess. And you wouldn't have that cash accumulation. But you shut it off at 60, but say you had a 401k, things like that, you lived on that, but then at around 70, you started taking out some money, okay? Very conservative idea here. You take out $17,000 a year, okay? You can add that on, let's call that inflation protection maybe, on top of your 401k withdrawals, your IRA or whatever. So you can take out $17,000 a year. After 6 years, you would have pulled out all of your principal, okay? Right? So you do the withdrawal. That's when you switch to the loans, okay? Now here's the thing is, that total amount you pulled out, okay, equals up to that the $109,000 that you put in. And remember, how much of that $109,000 is $109,000 all of your cash value, or is it all of your monthly premium?
Monthly premium.
But some of that monthly premium went to cost of insurance, didn't it? So not all of that $109,000 grew. So, but if you're pulling out $109,000, you're pulling out more than what you put in the cash value, right? So technically, you're accessing some of the interest as a withdrawal for free. So you literally recover 100% of what you put into it. Then you pull out $17,000, okay? A year there, not bad, right? So after about 6 years, and it depends on how the illustration, it might be 3 or 4 years, right? It might be a little longer, just depends on how much you pull out in your contribution and stuff, right?
You can put 30,000 and, in about 4 years,
Yeah.
4 years you already brought everything.
Exactly. And so, and that right there, that's just kind of running what's called income stream solve, okay, on there. So it's just this rate they figured, and stuff. So you can pull out more, if you want. All right. But then it switches to loans. Okay, so you jump back up to this right here, okay? So if you take out the money after the first year, the surrender value, but it is advisable to take the money out after 10 years, okay? So in other words, when you put the money, you can take it back out, but what we want to advise the client, okay, it's best to wait a good 10 years. Now this is on, I think this is still on the global, okay? Because there's a surrender charge. You remember percent in the FFIUL, but does that mean that the company never lost money? Because they got to invest and do something to gain money to give you some, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean they never lose?
Nope.
No, they may lose, all right? So, but they absorb the loss, not you, okay? Now, but if you put money in and take it out too soon, then it's hard for them to recoup the fact that they didn't charge you the loss. So if you give it 10 years, that's enough time for them to basically get their returns into a place where it works, you know what I'm saying? Where they're not losing out too bad, you know, overall, right? So what they do is if you pull all of it out, right? You lapse the policy, close it down, and your cash value is at $36,000 or whatever it is, okay? There's a surrender charge, okay? Now that's also based upon, you know, how much is left over. Is the charge is the charge, right? And it depends on how much you put in. Now this is not putting in a whole lot, so the charge is gonna hit you there. So it's not a policy to stop, right? If someone says, "Hey, I'm gonna put some money in, man, but I'm gonna take it all out at 6 years," you don't need this. This is not for that. Okay.
The surrender charge reduces your cash value, right? I mean.
Yeah, it's taken out. So see, here you're not going to get any money back based on this. Now, if you put in more, then this will be higher, right? And so, like if you 7-pay the thing, you'll have cash value at surrender. You'll have a surrender value even at year 1 because you put in the full amount. But if you put it down lower, close to what the fee is for closing it down, you know, all right. But then you'll notice, okay, after. You know, it starts to match up, right?
15 years.
After 15 years.
Yeah, so this is FFIUL, yeah. So, yeah, boom, so you have the same amount. That's just if you shut it down. You do loans withdrawals, they don't charge you this surrender, okay? But it's just if you close it down. So this is a long-term plan, right? Okay? Also, any gains, if you close down a policy, you lose the tax advantages on it, okay?
Well, just on a high note, I mean, people always ask me about, you know, if I surrender this, you know, my question is back to them, you know, I mean, if you do this thing to your 401k, what happened? Same thing.
Yeah.
In fact, you got to pay more. You got tax 30% plus 10% penalty on top of it. You lose 40% right there, right? But why people worry about this and not worry about their 401k where they got stuck until 15.5?
Yeah.
Right?
So-
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So I
So
said-
when you compare, you have to compare.
Apples to.
Yeah. What is your alternative?
Yeah. And what
Right,
you're
for
using it
tax-free
for,
investments,
right? Yeah. This is supposed to be long-term anyways, like I said. So yeah, we'll pull out 5 years. Well, you wouldn't put your money in an IRA and pull it out in 5 years. You wouldn't put it in a Roth if you're gonna pull it out less than 5 years, because you can't, right?
You're gonna say.
So everything has limitations to it and repercussions, you know, and so this is just like anything else, this is a long-term product, right? But you wanna make sure they need to see that, right? We had an issue with somebody who came back later and said, "Hey, I didn't know I wasn't gonna get any cash value in the early years." And it was real easy. We basically said, yes, you did. You saw this, okay? You saw the illustration, when we delivered it, you know, you signed agreeing to that. Actually, when they fill out the application, they sign a paper that says they understand these, and they understand. So she'd seen it multiple times. But is it possible for you to gloss over this, right? You could say, not pay attention to that. Don't do that. Because if the client comes back later because they talked to somebody else, because people who don't sell this, do you think they want people buying it?
No.
No! Because they don't get the asset. They want it in what they're selling, right? Especially if they don't have a life insurance, right? They sell over there. But, you know, and so they come back and go, "Oh, I didn't know." And then it's like, well, did you tell them? No. Yes, it is their responsibility to pay attention to what they sign, but what does that do to you, though, your reputation? When you go, "Hey, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Client, we showed you, remember? I told you." Yeah, but I told you, okay? It's not my fault. You agreed at that time and now changed your mind on it, right? You understood this, right? Just like if you quit a CD earlier, is there a penalty for that, right? I mean, you got to know what it is. You put your money in 401k, like he said, there's tax. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next point here, real quick.
Very quick. Let's say the client asks, "Oh, because the insurance company have to pay you whatever they promise you anyway, right? What if the company has no money to pay you? Where you go bankrupt?
Well, it goes back to what I said. Remember 2008, all these monies were having problems getting the government bailout? How many of those were insurance companies?
0.
Right?
And the second thing you can tell them is that all insurance account is insured just like FDIC.
No, I wouldn't know.
No?
There is I understand what you're saying, but I wouldn't say like the FDIC.
No, it's not. It's like.
Yeah, but that's what I say. I wouldn't equate it just because they can think, oh, I thought it was federally. No, there's no government insurance, but there is a pool. Okay, there is an insurance that covers yada yada yada. But I wouldn't go that far. I would just say, look, you know what? Look at the company ratings. Because we don't work with any companies below an A- rating. First of all.
That's a good input there, because there's a whole other companies out there that is a B rating, and our provider through WFG, we only take the A.
But no,
What happened to Merrill Lynch Investments? Right? Why did Bank of America buy Merrill Lynch Investments? Because that's who bought the investment.
Yeah,
The government basically made them do it to what? To save people's money. Because if they hadn't, what would have happened to all those people's money? Gone. Right? So the bailout was to try to save some money. Is it, okay, Bank of America, buy that out so that you can save these people's investments. Right? So the whole credit kind of thing, is it possible for the company to go bankrupt and you lose all your money? Sure. But tell me a place where that's not possible. Again, even government pensions aren't secure anymore. Right? So there's always a bit of risk in anything you do, right? So you have to, again, we bring it back to level. The fact is there's nothing they're going to put the money in they can 100% guarantee, except if you put it in the bank and you have FDIC insurance up to a certain amount, and you're not getting your money very quickly either, by the way. I've heard the time it takes to get that, right? But is that what you want to do to plan to retire? If you do, then we can look at doing that, but can you save enough money to retire on? You need $1 million to retire. Can you save $40,000 a year to make sure you have $1 million? Because you're not getting enough interest to grow it to $1 million. You got to save that, right? So again, you got to put that. Okay, let me go on. Let me go on here. Okay, so you make sure they understand that part. Okay, then you bring them down to here. Okay, back up over here. At age 60, you start to take out 401k money first, and then wait. So that's the whole idea why we waited. We stopped paying at 60 because that's when they wanted to retire, right? But if you have some 401k money, pull that out. Why? Because you're going to have to pay tax on it at some point, okay? And you don't want to wait till you're 70 necessarily, because you may be forced to take out more than you want to take out, right? Okay, so you wait on this one because that gives you more time to grow it. Take out the 401k money then, okay, so you take out 401k money at 70 or 71, you can start withdrawing, say, that $17,000 for about 6 years. You withdraw all of your contribution while the rest of the money is still compounding, right? Then you take $17,000 loans for the next how long?
24 years.
24 years, right?
Wow.
I mean, in this illustration. So if you're taking it at 75 here, right? You're old. Probably dead or close to it, right? Anyways, for the next 24 years, okay, you can take out altogether $400,000.
And you only put in?
You put in $109,000, and your family's potential your family could potentially have $109,000, right? Because you withdrew that. $410,000 that you withdrew over the next 24 years, plus $510,000 of death benefit. That's $1 million that you accumulated by putting in how much? $109,000 in this illustration. Obviously, if you put in more, those numbers could be considerably bigger because of compounding, right?
So
Okay.
What age? What age?
Start out, what was it, 30 something, I think?
35.
Yeah. Now, like I said, the specific numbers are not what you need to know. You need to know how to walk them through this, okay? Because the numbers are going to be different for everybody. Right.
Just theoretical question. I know they're guaranteeing the death benefit, right? In this example, 500,000
Mm-hmm.
to everyone, right? So
Mhm.
how do they make that money? Where do they make money?
That's let's have another
Okay.
discussion on that. Yeah, because, we can take maybe some time at the end if we
Okay,
have,
that's
maybe
fine.
when Hadi comes up.
Yeah,
I want to get through that. Yeah, it's a valid question though. Okay, it's a good question, just not where we want to go with this right now. Okay?
They invested, And their goal is to gain 6-7%.
Yeah, they invested, definitely.
And it's the same question of, you know, when you pay for car insurance, where did you get the money to pay for
Yeah.
the car?
Yeah, actually, I skipped over a point when I made that because that was the summary. But basically, for the next 24 years, right, you're taking out $17,000 a month with no tax on that 17 grand, and it's equal to 24,000 if you take it out from your 401k, right? So you take out 17 instead of 24, right? How much is the difference between 17 and 24? $7,000 times 24 years. How much is that? A lot of money that you didn't pay in taxes, right?
Well, that's your tax $7,000, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, you didn't pay that. So you get to save that, compound it, and pull money out. Pretty nice, huh? Right? That's,
I have a quick question.
go ahead.
About your 17,000. You kept on saying the loan and the withdrawal.
Mhm.
So is it actually a loan that you take out every year, or is
Yes.
it a withdrawal?
When you move, you withdraw. Let me go back up here because I visually see it. On this side, you're withdrawing the money you put
Your
in.
principal, right?
Once you withdraw 100% of the money you put in, then you switch to loans.
Okay.
So this 24 years of 17,000 is a loan.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Is there ever beneficial to just take a loan right out of the bank and don't withdraw at all?
You can, yeah.
You can, I don't know. I mean, if you're just trying to withdraw money for
Because I
retirement.
think when I do backlight illustration, there's that option to loan only.
Yeah, all of them, you can do that. Yeah, you can illustrate it that way, but
How the difference?
I guess if you want to pull it out and,
Loan versus paying principal.
No,
Loan
no, no.
has interest, withdrawal doesn't have interest.
yeah.
So why would you take the loan when you can do the 10% withdrawal every year without
Right.
being?
No. Okay. If you, this is your withdrawal because it's money, it's your money you put in, you've already paid taxes on it.
Right.
If you withdraw this money, then you're gonna pay tax on it, okay?
Okay. But
You'll
the
pay
loan
tax
you
on it if you
only
withdraw, but a loan you don't, you pay an interest, okay? So let me go ahead and kind of finish this up here, and then, you know, if Hadi wants to get the specifics on this later, he can, okay? So, all right, let me kind of, I'll just run through each point again, because we've kind of been a little distant. Okay, so basically, if you save $11 a day or $300 a month or $4,000 a year at 8.7%, okay? Then, yeah, we'll print these to give to you guys. Then your contribution, $109,000 until age 60 becomes $250, okay, at that interest rate. So the gain is $141,000. It's a tax advantage gain, remember? And $750,000 death benefit that's for your family, for terminal illness, for long-term care, okay? And then, so with $41,000 of gain, if this is taxable or tax deferred, either one of those, then you have to pay a tax on that gain, okay? And if it's at regular income tax rate at 30%, let's say, then you know you have to pay $42,000 on that. But with this, your family doesn't have to worry about any of that, right? Okay? So, and then at age 70, you take out $17,000 a year. So after 6 years, you withdraw 100% of what you put in. What went to your cash value, what you paid in fees. You recover all of that. So for the rest of the 24 years, you can take $17,000 a month of that gains, no tax, and it's equal to about $24,000 if you were to pull it from the, right? And here's the thing, you got to your 401k, you're having to pull out $24,000 to give some to Uncle Sam to live on 17. How quick does that diminish that account, right? A lot faster, right?
No tax, but you do pay a little bit of interest on it, right?
No,
Because you
not at
take
this
it out.
point. Because this is, remember I told you a year's 11 plus?
Uh-huh.
Okay, if they charge 7.5, they're going to credit 7.5. So wash off. So if they charge you 3%, they will credit 3%. Whatever the company's doing, most of them, not all of them. Okay, but this one is the way it is. It's a wash off loan. Okay. All right. So you need to take out more from your 401k. So in summary, you can take out $109,000, $400,000 in loans, which equals, and then $510,000 of death benefit. That's over $1 million of tax-free distribution. Not bad, right? Okay. So all of these could happen if you're a long-term investor, remember, because surrender, right? And you got to give compounding time, right? If you're a long-term investor who's willing to stay in this program and discipline and saving money. If you choose to stop at the early stage, though, of this program, the money will not be good for you. And if you have health issues, you may be able to participate. You may not be able to participate in this program, right? Remember, we talked about certain health issues makes you uninsurable. Okay. All right. So it just depends on the individuals. The next step is to get your medical done and see how your health condition is. Then, if your health is different of what I quoted, then I'll run another illustration. So I'll show you the cost breakdown, and I'll show you the cost breakdown. But let me have your driver's license. Okay, this is a process to actually set up and close. So you explain to them, this is what they got. Pretty simple, right? There's 6 things you explain real quick. I mean, real quick, not to gloss over, but you go over those 6 steps. You fill out the form because I don't know if you even qualify yet. You know, if you're committed long term and you have enough to put into it to make sense, you still have to qualify based on the insurance part. Okay, so we got to see if you even qualify. So we do the paperwork, get the medical exam done, and then we can know, right? Okay, pretty simple, right? And overall, that's the most of what you may need to go over with the client. Okay, you need to be able to explain these things. Like I said, we'll get this printed because I can't electronically give it to you guys. Penny won't allow that, but we'll print this out so you can have this. Now, you can have this with you, I guess, when you're meeting with a client, but don't use this one. You need to use their illustration. And because of time, I was going to go over a real illustration, but I mean, we're getting close, and I want to make sure Hadi has time, okay? But basically, do you guys have any questions on that? When you get into the detail, if you can't answer it, okay, like the way I did, okay, yes, this, then you need to go start doing some of the things that Hadi's going to share with you guys.
But that one has grammatical errors.
Oh, it's got a ton of grammatical errors. That's why I don't read it verbatim to your client. This just teaches you basically what to do and say. This is written by Penny's team out there in California. And those guys, here's the thing, is they all make a lot more money than our team overall does, and they talk like this. So some encouragement to you guys, right? I'm serious. It's mostly Chinese market out there. Okay, most of those guys are Chinese, Malaysian, you know, but mostly Chinese, right? And these guys are talking like this and make all that money. I think we can do it too, right? Actually, it makes me feel horrible because, you know, I was even an English ESL instructor, and I'm thinking, man, I talk way better than these guys do. But, you know, I'm making $1 million a year yet a month. But, you know, yeah, correct that stuff up. I don't do it because there's no point to it. The point is to get the idea. So I'm not going to redo this with correct grammar and stuff. You know, you guys can correct that, okay? So now, why don't we take like a 5-minute break, kind of stretch it. We're going to come back but come back refreshed, man, because what Hadi's getting, he's giving you the real depth. Whenever clients go, yeah, but what about? And you need to really bring out some other tools to help them understand. And that's what he's going to bring in, okay, guys?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Billy.
Awesome.
Thank you, Billy.
Okay.
Nationwide.
I need to get up.
Thank you.
Is there a way to get it
So you
actually?
need to bring your full
Yes,
checklist.
Uh-huh,
Bring
yeah,
it
I'm
here.
certified ESL instructor.
Take it from me now.
Well,
Is there a way to do that from?
Yeah, I'm taught overseas as well as US based.
Oh, what nationality?
Indonesian.
Oh, that's how you met Patty.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. So where did you teach ESL?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where did you teach foreign language?
No, I taught English.
I know, but where did you?
Oh, what
teach
countries did I teach in?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Because normally, you know, as you American, when you say ESL, normally people go, you know, overseas.
Yeah. Well, there's two things. There's what's called ESL and EFL. Okay. Most people, I guess the layman-wise, outside of, you know, people that are actually instructors, they only think of ESL. But technically, it's ESL and EFL. EFL is English as a foreign language. ESL is English as a second language. Okay. Basically, ESL would be essentially if I was teaching English here to foreign speakers because they're second language here. But over there, it's technically a foreign language, right? Like I took French in high school, right? That kind of an idea.
So did you teach?
So I taught both. I taught overseas and in the U.S. And overseas, I've done like there's some short-term trainings and then more long-term based. But I've taught in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Mauritania are the overseas locations.
Okay.
And then I taught here for a while.
Organize it.
One, there was a church that had an ESL program. I helped them out 1 year, and then I also taught for a while, like as a paid, as a job with the Berlitz Language Institute.
Because my business partner,
You're gonna have kids when you were 18.
No, so much time.
He's doing a program.
he just teach the English.
Oh, okay. He's doing. Oh, okay. I thought you meant he said he's doing a program. I thought he was going through a program.
Last night.
Oh, so
What is he-
on this one, she looks like Kathleen.
What is he teaching with a certain company? Is he?
You're full. we got a lot more pizza back there, you know, so somebody
Yeah.
can finish it up.
Well, I might grab a piece because
Yeah.
I just kind of grabbed and went
Yeah.
earlier. So.
Caitlin, back to work already?
No, still at home.
You still have to work, right? No?
One more
What
month?
time?
Yeah.
At 5.
Too small. It's too small.
Oh, really?
2 months.
Well, get your license
You know,
done.
even though
You should be,
Then you get certified.
she's so cute.
Why? Well, no, you have to do it by March at the latest, because remember we have the Alaska, April till June, that's the last one. You don't want to go? No, it's summer, August 12th.
How many kids do you want?
It's a perfect time to be in Alaska, right? You know? Yeah.
Because you have two, so I have.
Well, let me tell you, you just lose one client, possibly 2 clients, right? You know, your downline just set up an account, you know, for the husband. Doesn't mean see. Right? Yeah, I mean, 5,000 points.
Why are you laughing?
With me, and I have to split it with your upline.
Oh, like,
Right?
Kathleen looks like
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to get licensed, take a chance.
Because once you get
Yeah.
licensed, it's going to take
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
get your license. And then it's going to take time to get appointed.
28.
Yeah.
Take a month.
Right, Evelyn? You can take her out to lunch or dinner, it's
You're
okay, right?
my age, right?
You can take her out to lunch or dinner, it's okay, right? Or having
Oh, you're 8,
a
so 8 years.
happy hour, right? You know? You make all the other right.
I told every year, every day. If this is something I did right in my life, is that I marry you.
Other than that,
Yeah.
you did wrong.
Well,
Everything I did wrong.
you have a lot of waiting, but you know, I think we need to help everybody understand. Yeah, Steve just got started.
Do you know how
Now we understand the part that he has.
Yeah, I have
You know,
that.
so I think it's easier to.
I do know that.
Thank you.
Change that.
Good. Yeah, there's a lot to. Yeah, it's a lot to pick over.
Yeah, we'll actually bring it up because like we said, any because time.
About 5 years. Yeah, and that's the thing is what I tell people when you're brand new,
Yeah, once
especially
you're a
in
trainer,
camps,
then.
like not every Saturday training is like big, like you just until about noon. Yeah. So yeah, and it's like you may get like some of it, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll give you the money.
And that's what like the typical industry, most other firms, you know, because they usually require you to be full time and stuff like that. What they do is they have like a 2 or 3 week intensive do it every day, so that's why you come. But since we're not requiring people to do that, sometimes it takes. But that's why actually our trainer training role is very well because you can leverage trainers, you know, for a longer period of time until you really got it.
So this is the release or this one?
Well, the boot
1
camp,
month
yeah, we do once a month. Yeah, like,
No, this
and,
is
like the last month we have is called the so it would, you know,
I've been running the baby.
you know,
I run the baby.
retirement, you know, that we have this one. I don't know where it is. Yeah.
Run faster.
Here and then Tuesday
Don't push,
original.
don't keep push the shoulder.
Those are
Push and then let them run.
Yeah, most guys up in Dallas, yeah, so in Dallas, we was training there, but the Houston group, we have training here. So it's a Saturday training.
No, she's running with me.
Victoria Beckham circa 2007.
Oh, yeah.
Your son, you learn also.
Yeah. You learn so much when you do it, because then you're like, because you look at it before you train. People ask questions and you know, okay, you know.
The one that you brought why?
You know, so I mean, once you get
Chubby guy,
get up and running,
has played beautiful
people in. I mean,
So it's good to be chubby.
Yeah, that's a good job. Yeah, because you know, we don't want to hear you there.
Like, when can I be
You know,
fully
I mean,
vaccinated?
See, my wife's
I don't know why. I've been trying to get her. Got her sister.
chances are he's broken wrist. The wrist is broken.
Remember,
Because like you said,
Billy
if you
said
train it really well, then you know it.
you cannot
So the more
get a lot of money with no work
know what they're talking
fast.
He likes to hold two jobs.
So you cannot have
all over the place.
heterosexual guy who's handsome and has
Oh, and by the way, if you
and has a
make
couple.
sure
One of them must be wrong.
for I'll have that thing I'll print it out and I'll go do the illustration, okay? So you're out there Tuesday.
Begin.
Yeah, I have a
I
friend.
get it.
One of my old friends. She's a really funny girl.
Francisca, she's like, can I visit you in your office? I'm like, no,
So,
you can't.
are you from the Dallas office? Is that right? Oh, okay.
Brought her to it.
Are you working with
She said
Because I
she
work in,
enjoyed
like,
it, but it's so heartbreaking. She said, "What? Oh, the guys are
Okay,
so
okay.
cute, but oh,
Yeah, yeah. So, your sister
it's like see no touch."
SMB.
Window shopping.
I'm gonna keep punching.
Yeah, she only, it's so heartbreaking. Like, all the guys so cute, so.
My running joke was
Go to the guys,
I'm still in the running too because I really haven't seen any like solid
They went to like a big
I mean, I have no problem.
Well, it's based on the business at that point.
As a lesbian
Production from your team. Yeah, and then a certain amount of is to become a
every time I walk, and then maybe they would find out is that a real
they all get paid based on this contract. But these guys, basically have a certain amount of these guys.
It's neither.
And you start, doing yourself at that point. You become a senior marketing.
That's what my friend says.
Marketing director. Right, so you get your agency because they want to pay people that have agencies. Okay. And what it is, so you get your what that does is that it gives them
she's not real.
something like that.
Yeah.
They
About that, I think,
have 6
because
senior marketing
most people have a.
and
It's too good, too beautiful, it is a thing.
Thailand, my friend.
yeah,
They even
it's
have
all
this.
different. You kind of depends, yeah, you kind of depends on what product you want. Like with this product,
Yeah, well,
Cricket and the girls.
I know, she's
Something is wrong. Something doesn't add up. 1 plus 1 equals 1,000. Something is not right.
essentially. I mean, there's another number here. So if you total accumulation 6 months, $1 million.
Why is that crazy?
It's all of your, and that's you and your.
Because she has a restaurant.
Yeah, I will with them also, but then there's also drawback on that one.
Yeah, she sells
The drawback is you don't control
So that's where
the
anything above SMB, that just really, it's basically almost like another way to recognize them for how big they are.
Yeah, I think.
That's what I
So see, like executive marketing,
You don't sell anymore.
Darren, you were in jail. I'm
You
sorry.
can, but the focus more.
Yeah, we're not.
just so, yeah,
You go to gym.
focusing on.
I belong to
But
gym.
one thing we never want to do is forget about building
Oh, you do
your own
okay?
base. So even though you have senior marketing directors, you still want to bring in the train them as well.
Like, which,
You know, it's one of the keys.
I did, right now, I have like mix, I did Pinay eggs, and I'm still for 35 right now, so I mix the
oh yeah, I do insanity.
no, not the I think it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, you could hit that,
Quite a lot.
but I mean, usually if someone's an SMB,
That's what I did it for 30 days.
but
yeah,
yeah, you always, that's how the guys that
Yeah.
they
To lose weight?
like pennies and stuff.
I guess, but I mean, people say I did, but I squat a lot.
As well, so you
Like,
kind of,
Yeah.
It's
But
like
she said there's a big
work
use of
cardio and
personal
all
points
that.
herself.
It's like the same team, that's the same guy as T25.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so you buy DVD tape. I'm thinking of
but
doing
you know, when you're,
I coach so I can sell
but
those.
here's the thing is when you're at that level,
So it's basically
your level of the ability to bring points is a lot easier, right? Because you're not closing out.
Wake up if you watch
You
YouTube,
might,
you see it.
but you know, you're up in levels
But the problem is,
Yeah.
you have to start
You know,
telling people
some guy just moved $2 million
Eventually,
on
like,
401k because he retired, right? You know, he won't even look at us, but he might.
This insanity is like 1 hour. Is it 1 hour? Well, the first 30 days is like 40
I see where it's
45 minutes, but
The
if
other
you,
part is once
I
you're
haven't done the second
well,
one.
once
The
you're
last 30 days and that one is an hour. So these are more
And
intense.
non-stop, right?
Yeah, non-stop, but you have like a break where you.
Yeah, that's why, yeah, I mentioned that.
And then have a cool down. So like you stretch for 7 minutes, the last one you stretch for 20 minutes.
The 225 is 25 minutes, it's like non-stop, there's no break, and
Well, no, it just means it's not like, let's say, so like January to March.
you mean like, no, like 25 minutes non-stop, basically.
April, May,
Okay, so it's
June.
just like
So if it's like
It's the
January,
same
February,
guy,
it's
March,
same guy,
it could be February.
I didn't do insanity,
March, April.
I don't know, it's
You should, because you should have the mentality of basically,
It was the same.
right now you're
Whatever,
building
3 months.
muscle, right?
How long have you been working now?
I work on and off,
Okay.
so on and off, so I haven't worked out for
Can go back and
about 4 months, and I just got back.
Technically, yes.
And did you take any?
There is a
What is the
provisional stage,
shakeology?
I don't remember the exact
Oh, the-
numbers, but if you
what
take
is
the
it
senior
called?
marketing director.
Shakeology.
But, oh, yeah, this is from the infinity.
They look at
It tastes good because I drink it
So if you have way
with
too
almond
much,
milk,
like
peanut
some percentage of
butter, avocado, and a banana, and I feel like it makes like
because what they don't want is people, I just
That's the after
and they cancel later.
whenever I have time to take.
Or not even telling them, but just writing bad.
Okay, I know, I take a vegan shake.
You know, so you need to promote. Because here's the thing is,
Before I didn't take anything, so it was just like the last, I think the last couple of years I started
per se,
whey
but it does cost them.
I tried to be
And if they, you will come to WG going, hey, these people
I'm just trying to tone, I'm not trying to, I don't want to have like, I mean, women, we cannot have, I just want to tone the muscle, I want to lose muscle, I don't want to lose weight, and I just want to tone the muscle.
So you probably want to gain like 5 pounds too.
I don't know, I don't know, I don't want to gain, also just like create muscle, we'll see.
Well, like you may post 6,000,
I think like diet is
from last month, cancel this.
Yes, they said 20% is the workout, 80% is on the kitchen. So I'm trying to, the hardest part is cut down my, the carbohydrate, has the rice.
I mean, other than that,
Really hard.
really
I can't cut down rice. I eat it like every
Yeah, this is
So
the first time
basically,
I'm gonna go to Alaska.
I cut down the rice for, I just started like a week, cut down the rice.
I want twice
you're already a
Okay,
person,
once
that's
a year.
once just for the rice and the rest
because
the rice.
it was like 5
It is hard. Sometimes I cannot really just eat the rice, but I cut down like
that's what's paid. Have it.
You know, so
sometimes I
Retire,
it's also the country. This is why we go to Alaska because
Senior marketing director, we have permanent override of your business.
exercise.
yeah.
All right. All right, Leah, let's get going. That's probably a little longer than 5 minutes, I guess, but I wasn't paying attention. So.
Okay. Yeah. This is gonna be
Oh, I forgot to.
How come this room became so hot now?
okay. So I think
Coffee, there's pizza.
Oh, okay.
I think by now you guys understand. I mean, some people always ask me, right? You know, I mean, if this part is so good, why nobody knows about this, right? Why so many people don't know about this, right? Now you know why so many people don't know about this. Because it takes a while just to explain the basic. Is that true? Right? You know, so this is why the WFG Trans-American Method is best, because we recruit people first so that we can educate them over here. Is that true? Right? You know, because most companies, there's no other financial advisors company or even bank out there that will spend time with you for 4 hours, serve you the pizza before you open an account with them. I'm not kidding.
Yes.
Right? Does that make sense?
That's what I came.
No? There you go.
You're all day from Dallas.
There you go, because you're a team member. Does that make sense? Now we provide all this free education to people and they're not listening. Is that the most frustrating part of our business?
And they say, it's a scam. What do you think? It's like, oh.
Yeah, and they say it's a scam. Right? You know, now, you know, but it's that we have a lot of good stories, you know, where our clients are educated and now they go back to their financial advisor and say, why don't you talk to me about this thing? And they find out that, oh, the financial advisor doesn't even know about this thing. Now it's telling you something. right? A lot of financial advising company out there doesn't even know about all these things. Why? Because they only got taught whatever they got taught.
They're not trained in this.
They're not trained in this product. You know, people who have Series 6, 7 license, they cannot do insurance products. Does that make sense? You know, so if you bring this to your financial advisors and you ask them, what do you think they'll answer to you?
Is it a scam?
Yeah, this is a bad product, it's an insurance product, you know, it's gonna cost you money, it's just making more commissions. I'm telling you, which commissions is more? Rollovers, active money management, or this guy right here? I only got paid once on this guy, I got paid forever on active money management.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Right? If people wanna do whatever, I'll do it for them. Right? You know, you know, many people don't understand about these things. Right? You know, so, okay, so I'm gonna go into the, I'm going to go into what we call the sizzle part, right? You know, because when you talk about food, you know, yeah, this food is good, it's healthy, blah blah, right? You know, but when you sell it, it's a different story, right? You know, so what do you need to do in order to sell these things? Right now, of course, I'm not going to repeat the whole technique that I do, maybe just a little bit, right? But I just like to come up with asking you, because most of you are already licensed, right? Except a few people only, right? I want you to tell me, if you're dealing with clients, what's usually your biggest objections, your biggest problems? You know, what does people, and this is good that Prakash is here, right? Because you're new. So you tell me, what do you think is the biggest concern why people don't do this?
It sounds too good to be true. Like, there's no such thing as you're always going to lose money. It's inevitable.
No, okay, okay. I'm going to define this too good to be true. This is after you explain to them or before you explain to them?
Before and after.
Before you explain to them, they say it's too good to be true?
Hey, I want to show you something. That's too good to be true. I haven't even told you yet.
Are you from Amway?
What? Man, if you guys get that, you're doing something really wrong.
For you ask me,
Huh?
one of the education, second comparison. I'm comparing to is it the best alternative or am I losing or something?
Exactly, right?
So,
Now I'm gonna put three major things that I could think of, right? Basically, people don't do this either. They have no money to invest, right?
Yes.
Which means that we have to work on recruiting them, have to make more money first, right? Or they have no prior education, right? About the product. You know, sometimes many people that you're gonna run into, they don't even have a clue about taxes, right? They can barely file their own taxes, right? You know, so if they have that kind of problem, you need to understand how to talk to this kind of people. Does that make sense? Because now we're talking about how you introduce this great product, right? Number 3 is,
I don't like to sell.
right?
Stupid.
Stupid means after you explain to them, you know, they still don't do it. No, I'm serious. It's a true reason.
That's what Andy wins right there.
I mean, he's not client yet, and then
Yeah.
he said he wants term life with return of premium, and I told him, and I give him the comparison like, okay, term life with return of premium is going to cost you more than the index universal life.
Yeah.
No, I still want the term life with return of premium.
Yeah.
I mean, that's stupid. That's stupid right there. No, I have
That
to
might
say.
fall into one of these
And it's
categories.
not, it's not that he doesn't have money. I mean, he has money.
Yeah.
He has chunk of money in the bank, it's a saving account, but he's
Yeah.
still the return of premium, even if it's more expensive than IUL. So he is stupid.
I guess for the benefit of the
Why
doubt.
was his reason? Why was his reason that he didn't want
He
the?
didn't give one. He just said, I just want it.
Yeah, I think it's human nature. People are stubborn, right?
He's just
You like what you know. If I gave you a new kind of pizza right now, let's say with the Kobe beef and so on and so forth, you may not want it because.
no, but
Or hey, what if this is with let's say
Gold dust.
cat's meat? This is more tasteful than beef meat, but it's cat's meat. Now, do you want to try it?
No.
Now, people may not want it, right?
Yeah, well, actually there's more, you know, like usually the problem they do is like no belief, right? You know, simply people procrastinate, you know, but the thing is, how do we overcome these things, right? You know, I want you to think about, you know, well, let's go real quick because I like to take on some issues first, right? Of why people don't do it, you know, and then I'll show to you how we did it and how we, you know, how we should overcome these things, right? You know, but I can guarantee you it will probably fall into one of those 4 categories, right? Anybody else want to say? Too good to be true is a good objection. What else?
How do the company make money?
I
How
will think
company
about
make
it.
money?
Yeah, if they guarantee.
Yeah,
right,
how
do they
does the
make money?
insurance stays afloat, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
If they're
else?
not invested, how do they make money, right?
I'll think
My
about it.
question was, with so much commission, why alternative is not attractive in terms of return?
The alternative, right?
Yeah, for example, you said 6%, 6.5%.
Yeah. Alternative products, okay.
Index 0.5% for Fidelity, for
Yeah.
example.
Okay.
Why is still that a better deal?
Yeah, so basically this looks expensive compared to other investments, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't need it.
I don't need
I
it.
don't need insurance.
I will think about it.
All right,
I
I'm
don't
not
have any
interested.
money. I don't have
I heard